with flourishing eco-tourism.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends East Asia Summit in Laos PDR, stresses on ASEAN's central role in Indo-Pacific regional architecture in India's Indo-Pacific vision and in Quad cooperation. India and Laos PDR signed several memorandums of understandings on defence and cooperation and broadcasting. West Asia conflict intensifies as Israel conducts fresh airstrikes on Beirut, killing 22. Russian President Vladimir Putin in Iran to meet President Masoud Pezeshkian. Situation in the Middle East to dominate the agenda. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the 19th East Asia Summit in Vientiane, Laos. During his address, PM Modi extended condolences to the countries who have been impacted by Typhoon Yagi. PM Modi noted India's assistance in providing humanitarian aid through Operation Sadbhav. PM Modi emphasized on ASEAN unity and centrality. He reiterated India's interest in peace, security and stability of South China Sea. He called for free, open, inclusive and prosperous Indo-Pacific. PM Modi said that maritime activities should be conducted under UNCLOS. He noted that focus should be on development, not expansionism. He said India's support for ASEAN approach on the situation in Myanmar. PM said that countries of Global South are facing most negative impact of ongoing conflicts. He called for peace and stability to be restored as soon as possible. Prime Minister Modi said that this is not the era of war. He reiterated that problems cannot be solved on the battlefield. And US Secretary of State Antony Blinken reaffirmed Washington's commitment to supporting ASEAN centrality during the ASEAN-US Summit on Friday. Blinken also reiterated the nation's stance on supporting freedom of navigation and overflight in the Indo-Pacific and stressed the importance of maintaining stability in the Taiwan Strait.
From the deepening crisis in Myanmar, to the DPRK's destabilizing behavior, to Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, which continues to violate principles at the heart of the United Nations Charter and at the heart of ASEAN's Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. We remain concerned about China's increasingly dangerous and unlawful actions in the South and East China Seas, which have injured people and harmed vessels from ASEAN nations, and contradict commitments to peaceful resolution of disputes. The United States will continue to support freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight in the Indo-Pacific. We also believe it's important to maintain our shared commitment to protect stability across the Taiwan Strait. But whether it's responding to urgent global challenges or advancing the shared hopes of our people, the relationship between the United States and ASEAN will continue to be essential.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit in Vientiane in Laos on Friday. PM Modi, who is on a two-day visit to the Southeast Asian country, extended his condolences for the loss of lives due to Hurricane Milton in Florida, United States. India and Laos People's Democratic Republic today signed several memorandums of understanding and agreements in the fields of defence, cooperation and assistance in custom matters. MOU was also signed in broadcasting between Prasar Bharati and Lao National Broadcaster, and MOU in quick impact projects under the Mekong-Ganga cooperation. And the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Lao President Thongloun Sisolit in Vientiane on Friday. Underscoring the historical civilization ties, PM conveyed his commitment to further deepen the close partnership between the two countries. And PM Modi held bilateral talks with Prime Minister of Laos PDR, Sonxai Siphandone, in Vientiane today. The Prime Minister congratulated Laos PM on successfully hosting the 21st ASEAN-India and 19th East Asia Summits. The two leaders held productive discussions aimed at further strengthening India-Laos ties, including in key sectors of cooperation such as heritage conservation and restoration, development partnership, capacity building, economic defence, culture and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Siphandone thanked Prime Minister of India for India's flood relief assistance provided to Laos PDR in the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi. The two leaders noted that the ongoing restoration and conservation of Wat Phu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, under Indian assistance by the Archaeological Survey of India, imparts a special dimension to bilateral ties. The two Prime Ministers expressed satisfaction at the close cooperation between the two countries in regional and multilateral fora. PM Siphandone reaffirmed India's role on the international stage. India has strongly supported Laos PDR's chairmanship of ASEAN for 2024. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Prime Minister of Thailand. All right, we'll come back to it, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi has departed for India from Laos PDR. These are the visuals that we are getting you after a successful two-day visit. He attended ASEAN-India Summit yesterday, and today also he attended East Asia Summit. Alongside, he also held several bilaterals, including with Laos PDR Prime Minister, and we just showed you the visuals that he held a meeting with Laos PDR President also. So, Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi leaves for New Delhi, emplanes for New Delhi after a successful two-day visit in Laos PDR. On his first day, PM Modi attended India-ASEAN Summit, while on his second day, he attended East Asia Summit. During the summit, PM Modi, along with ASEAN leaders, reviewed the relations, while the ASEAN leaders appraised India's cooperation in many areas of diverse collaboration as a result of India's Act East policy, and also they appraised very positively India's leadership role in digital public infrastructure. So, addressing the East Asia Summit, Prime Minister Modi on Friday said that the ongoing conflicts in different parts of the world are negatively impacting the global south. He also backed a rule-based Indo-Pacific region and talked about ensuring freedom of navigation. He said the peace, security and stability of South China Sea are in the interest of the entire Indo-Pacific region. PM Modi also called terrorism a serious challenge to peace and security across the world. He said it is necessary to respect sovereignty, territorial integrity and international laws. Dialogue and diplomacy will have to be given top priority. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Prime Minister of Thailand Paetongtarn Shinawatra in Laos PDR. In a post on X, PM Modi said Thailand is a deeply valued friend of India. He added that talks between the leaders were focused on how to improve trade ties between our nations and to boost cultural linkages. PM Modi said India and Thailand see great scope in sectors like defence, shipping, digital innovations and more. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the first leader to be invited to address the East Asia Summit after the host and incoming chair. According to sources, India's role and importance in the ASEAN was also recognized. According to sources, Prime Minister Modi was also recognized as the only leader in the room who has participated in the most number of East Asia Summits, which is 9 out of 19 East Asia Summits. The East Asia Summit refers to the meeting of heads of states, governments of East Asia Summit participating countries, which is convened annually. The summit process was initiated in 2005 with the convening of first summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In his address, PM Modi said that India has always supported ASEAN unity and centrality. He noted that ASEAN is also at the center of India's Indo-Pacific vision and Quad cooperation. On Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Lao PDR, Ministry of External Affairs Secretary Jaideep Majumdar said ASEAN leaders appraised India's cooperation in many areas of diverse collaboration as a result of India's Act East policy, and also they appraised very positively India's leadership role in digital public infrastructure and the fact that ASEAN countries can benefit significantly from this.
ASEAN leaders and the Prime Minister reviewed our relations, the comprehensive relations that we have with ASEAN. ASEAN leaders especially very positively appraised our cooperation as in many areas of diverse collaboration as a result of India's Act East policy, and also they appraised very positively India's leadership role in digital public infrastructure and the fact that ASEAN countries can benefit significantly from this.
All right, to talk more on this, my colleague Meghna Dev joins us live from Lao PDR. Meghna, PM's visit to Lao culminates. He attended ASEAN-India Summit yesterday and East Asia Summit today. Several meetings were also held on the sidelines. How will you sum up PM's visit to Lao PDR?
Yes, Abhishek, we just saw the visuals that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has concluded his visit. He has left from Vientiane and he's left for New Delhi. So very importantly, one aspect that we see that Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the East Asia Summit did talk about how expansionist theory, and he did compare it with the development theory. Very strong messaging going out from the East Asia Summit from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's intervention. He spoke how the conflict across the globe is impacting Southeast Asian countries, how it is impacting the ASEAN. He did speak about how Myanmar should not be isolated and it should be included in different engagements, multilateral engagements or the engagements of the ASEAN. So that is something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi did a very strong messaging from the East Asia Summit. He did talk about the South China Sea. He did talk about the Indo-Pacific. He did talk about, a number of aspects like disaster resilience, cyber security. A lot of aspects have been talked about. Looking bilaterally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the Prime Minister of Laos, Prime Minister Siphandon, and he spoke about different aspects. We saw that the MOUs were signed, MOUs on quick development projects, quick impact projects. Now these projects specifically on the restoration part, specifically on preservation of shadow puppetry, which is a puppetry that happens in the Champasak province for Ramayana. All of these aspects for that also quick impact development projects under the Mekong-Ganga cooperation. MOU has been signed for that. The defense cooperation MOU has been signed. That brings us a very important point that how India has been constantly reaching out to the ASEAN, and ASEAN countries are reciprocating the same. Secondly, one more aspect that we spoke to the Secretary East on what were the subjects on the table when both the Prime Ministers met, the Prime Minister of India and Prime Minister of Lao PDR. He said, and the major concern that India has in terms of youngsters being duped and lured for fake job brackets and being brought to Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and then they're kept hostage. And after that, the governments of the countries have to help to rescue them. That was also something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi brought up in the conversation with the Lao PM, and he also thanked the government of Lao PDR for the help that they have been doing to rescue the Indian youngsters who have been duped in fake job brackets. So these are some of the aspects that have been, constantly being discussed. Very importantly, from the ASEAN Summit, Abhishek, we will be seeing the Delhi dialogue very soon.
Okay.
So that will be coming up next month. So, and when we, the upcoming year, we have the India-ASEAN Year of Tourism. So a lot of engagements we will be able to see in the front, in the India-ASEAN front that will be happening in India. And we will also be seeing that a number of initiatives that have been taken, like workshop on green hydrogen, the 10-pointer proposal that Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented at the 21st India-ASEAN Summit, those will also be implemented, in the upcoming months to come.
You spoke about both the summits, ASEAN-India Summit and also East Asia Summit, and also about the bilaterals. But Meghna, India and Lao PDR share great cultural heritage. In the context of civilizational connect between India and Lao PDR, tell us how significant has this visit been?
Abhishek, that's a very important question, and that's a very
Yeah.
important thing that we saw on day one of Prime
Yeah.
Minister Narendra Modi's visit. 50%, or maybe I can say 70% of his engagements were in and around the shared cultural heritage that we have with Lao PDR, Falak Falam, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi saw the Ramayana being enacted. He did see, the Ravan Vadh, the Ravan Vadh part of the Ramayana. He was presented that Buddhist monks did tie a sacred thread on his hand. They were chanting prayers for him. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also announced that how the scholarship under the ICCR will be doubled for the ASEAN region, for people from the ASEAN region to study at the Nalanda University. So these are important aspects in which we see that the India and ASEAN not only connect trade-wise, not only have a comprehensive strategic partnership, not only have, or we can say, not only have other linkages in terms of defense cooperation, in terms of quick impact projects of sanitation, education, but a very important aspect is the cultural heritage that we have. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi did also see what the ASI has been doing at the Wat Phu Temple complex in the Champasak province, wherein they have been working since 15 years for the restoration of the Wat Phu Temple complex. And not only in Lao PDR, but what we see in Vietnam, I saw in Vietnam, we saw in Cambodia, we are seeing in Myanmar, different places ASI is working for the restoration of the shared cultural heritage that we have.
Also, Meghna, last question before we leave you. You spoke about 10-point action plan. How was the reception from ASEAN leaders for 10-point action plan by Prime Minister coming as it did in the 10th year of Act East policy?
So very importantly, Abhishek, we see first when we're talking about green hydrogen, workshop on green hydrogen. This is something that the ASEAN countries would also want to, probably have a practice in, or maybe we can say probably have more ground on how green energy, green hydrogen, on these things. While India, we know for that matter, is on path for completing its 500 gigawatt, ambition, or we can say target by 2030. We definitely do see that how India has been constantly helping other countries also to shift, how that shift can take place to green. Besides that, also we will be seeing startup festivals, we will be seeing youth conclave, we will see scientists, women scientists conclave, we will also see the Buddhists coming for a conclave to the Nalanda University. We will see more students from the ASEAN countries coming at the Nalanda University. We will have more scholarships for agriculture universities as well. So definitely the 10-point proposal has a lot more in store, and bringing that up since the upcoming month, the Delhi Dialogue, it will be commencing. And besides that, a lot of other initiatives that, like the startup festival, or probably the youth festival, music festival under the ASEAN, will also bring the youngsters closer and forge new cooperation in the sectors, or we can say on the softer side of the corporate areas of cooperation.
All right, Meghna, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for inputs. All right, that was Meghna Dev reporting from Lao PDR. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. All right, so these are the visuals that we are getting you from Lao PDR. All right, that was a short video of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Lao Periyar. But still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. General election nominations conclude in Sri Lanka. Polling will be held on 14th November. Hurricane Milton wreaks havoc across the American state of Florida. And Argentina lawmakers failed to overturn Javier Milei's veto of university funding. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. In Bangladesh, a crown of goddess Kali at the Jeshoreshwari temple in Satkhira has been stolen on Thursday afternoon. The crown was gifted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the temple in March 2021 during his visit to Bangladesh. The information was provided by the High Commission of India in Bangladesh through a post on social media platform X. The High Commission has expressed deep concern and urged government of Bangladesh to investigate theft, recover the crown and take action against the perpetrators. And according to media reports, the local police has confirmed the incident and they are reviewing the temple CCTV footage to identify the thief. The Jeshoreshwari Kali temple is one of the 51 Shakti Peeths in Hinduism. And the filing of nominations for the general elections in Sri Lanka has concluded across the island on Friday. As per the Election Commission, 147 political parties and 94 independent groups had placed their nominations. Among the top political names submitted, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya will contest the election from Colombo. The ruling National People's Power Alliance has also nominated a representative of the persons with disabilities community for the national list. However, many senior politicians, including former presidents and ministers, have decided not to contest. Among them are former presidents such as Mahinda Rajapaksa, Maithripal Sirisena, Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe. Special security arrangements were put in place at all district secretariats across the island as well as Election Commission office in Colombo. Polling will be held on 14th November. Postal voting will take place on 30th of October and on 1st and 4th of November at all district secretariats and election offices. Well, let's go across to Colombo. DD India's Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi is joining us live to talk more on this. Dr. Faruqi, the filing of nominations for the general elections in Sri Lanka has concluded across the island. Fill us in with more details.
Abhishek, you see, in fact, if we can remember, in September of 2024, we had seen presidential elections in Sri Lanka. In fact, if I have to talk about the political system in Sri Lanka, it is a hybrid model wherein there is a parliament as well as there's a presidential election. So the presidential elections are over with the victory of Anura Kumara Dissanayake of the National People's Power. Now, what he had done was that he had dissolved the parliament of Sri Lanka, the 9th parliament, and he had called for fresh elections, which are now going to be held on 14th of November. This is a hybrid model further because this has election which is being done through 196 seats that will be elected through the usual electoral process of proportionate representation. And in addition to that, there will be 29 seats which will belong to the national list. The national list is something, it's a proportion of the vote share that each political party gets. According to that, members would be nominated to the parliament. So therefore, totally 225 members will be elected. 4th of October was the date from when nominations were being received by the Election Commission and various district election offices across the island. And today by 12 noon, the nominations have been received and it has closed. Thereafter, 1.5 hours were provided to all the candidates and to anyone who could file objections. And so far, what has been provided is that more than 147 political parties and 94 individual groups have filed the nomination. But the complete figure will be released probably in some time, Abhishek.
All right, Dr. Farooqi, the polling is scheduled to be held on 14th November and postal voting will be held earlier in October. Tell us, how do we see the contest? Who are the front runners?
Abhishek, you see, this is not a contest in that kind of a manner as we saw in the presidential elections. But what is being talked about is that National People's Power, which won the elections in September 2024 through Anurag Dissanayake, will have a stronger say in these parliamentary elections. However, there is also an equally competent opposition in the form of Samagi Jana Bala Vegaya, as well as the front from the party of Ranil Wickremesinghe, that is the United National Party, which are fighting the elections under the gas cylinder symbol. They have their own pockets where they will have their loyal vote base. And there is a possibility that none of the parties would be able to secure 50% majority in the parliament. Having a 50% majority in the parliament will be very, very crucial to ensure that the smooth functioning of the government goes ahead with regard to passing of bills, passing of budget, and various other issues on a day-to-day basis. But there are also certain factions which are saying that NPP will have sufficient numbers because once that they have proven that they have won the presidential elections, the floating vote or the fence-sitter vote will definitely turn towards them. So this is just a mere argument which is going between the experts of both factions, both sides. But it is too early to say anything as of now. Yes, on October 30th, November 1st and November 4th, postal voting will be allowed for the government employees. Approximately more than 7 lakh government employees will cast their votes on these 3 days, and additional opportunities will also be provided to them on 7th and 8th of November. That will be for those who would miss their opportunity to cast the postal vote. But once that opportunity is lost, those government employees will not be allowed to vote on 14th November. That is the usual practice which Election Commission normally adopts. But all eyes will be with regard to how each and every candidate would be able to poll his popularity in various electoral districts on 14th of November. Abhishek.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. Dr. Ahmed Moin Farooqi reporting from Colombo. In other global news, former US President Barack Obama rallied voters in Pennsylvania to support Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of November 5 election. Speaking at the University of Pittsburgh, Obama urged young voters to oppose Donald Trump, who is running for re-election. Obama has been a strong advocate for Harris since she became the Democratic presidential candidate after President Joe Biden stepped down in July. The rally is part of several events Obama will hold in key swing states. The former president also expressed concern on the loss of lives due to Hurricane Milton.
So I get it, why people are looking to shake things up. I mean, I am the hopey changey guy. So I understand people feeling frustrated and feeling we can do better. What I cannot understand is why anybody would think that Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you, Pennsylvania. I don't understand that. Because there is absolutely no evidence that this man thinks about anybody but himself. I've said it before. Donald Trump is a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago.
And Hurricane Milton has wreaked havoc across the American state of Florida, leaving millions without power and causing significant destruction. The storm's impact has raised urgent concerns about recovery efforts and federal assistance. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us this report.
The aftermath of Hurricane Milton is devastating, with over 3 million homes and businesses in Florida left without power. The storm has killed at least 16 and has caused extensive damage to buildings and infrastructure. The estimated damage from Milton could result in up to $100 billion. Weeks ahead of the presidential election, politics over the hurricane is making rounds. President Joe Biden has called for Congress to return to session to address urgent disaster relief funding needs in response to the hurricane's destruction.
I think Congress should move as rapidly as they can, particularly on the most immediate need, which is small business. Vice President Harris and I said yesterday, and we'll say it again, to anyone who seeks to take advantage of our fellow Americans' desperation, whether you're a company engaging in price gouging or a citizen trying to scam your neighbors, we will go after you and we will hold you accountable.
During a campaign rally, Vice President and Democrat nominee Kamala Harris pledged support for those affected by the hurricane.
Our administration has mobilized thousands of federal personnel across the region to work hand in hand with local and state officials to give folks the help they need. I have spoken with state, local officials, both Republican and Democrat, to let them know we will be with you every step of the way as you recover and rebuild.
On the other hand, former President and Republican nominee Donald Trump criticized the federal response to Hurricane Milton.
I'd like to congratulate governors of Florida, Ron DeSantis, Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia and South Carolina, Henry McMaster. They were really hit hard and they've done really a fantastic job. The federal government, on the other hand, has not done what you're supposed to be doing. In particular, with respect to North Carolina, they've let those people suffer unjustly.
Hurricane Milton made landfall near Siesta Key, Florida on Wednesday night as a Category 3 storm with sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. The hurricane carved a destructive path across Florida just weeks after Hurricane Helene, before moving into the Atlantic Ocean. Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
And the hallways of several Buenos Aires University campuses were deserted on Thursday as teachers, staff and students staged a strike against President Javier Milei's veto of a law aimed at increasing university funding. Lawmakers were unable to overturn the veto on Wednesday. Last month, Milei rejected a bill that sought to adjust public university funding to keep pace with Argentina's soaring inflation rate, which is among the highest in the world. In response, thousands have protested against his cuts to education and healthcare. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Army observes Mental Health Month at UN Force headquarters. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky holds talks with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Lao PDR visit successfully concludes. He attended India-ASEAN Summit and East Asia Summit. He stresses on ASEAN's central role in Indo-Pacific regional architecture, in India's Indo-Pacific vision and in Quad cooperation. India and Lao PDR signed several memorandums of understanding on defence and cooperation and broadcasting. West Asia conflict intensifies as Israel conducts fresh airstrikes on Beirut, killing 22. Russian President Vladimir Putin was welcomed by Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian in Turkmenistan on Friday. Russian and Iranian leaders attended a cultural forum in Turkmenistan on Friday. Leaders of Central Asian countries are meeting to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the birth of Magdamiguli Piregi, the 18th century poet and philosopher. This is the first meeting between the two leaders since Iran fired missiles at Israel last week. Putin and the Iranian president are also due to meet on the sidelines of the annual summit for the BRICS economic group in Russian city of Kazan later this month. Earlier, Russia's Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin visited Iran last week for talk with President Pezeshkian and the first Vice President Mohammad Reza Arif. On the other hand, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday held talks with French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris as part of a European tour aimed at securing more Western support. Zelensky was seeking a military and financial boost during a 48-hour trip to London, Paris, Rome and Berlin amid fears of dwindling support if Donald Trump becomes US President next month. Speaking to reporters after talks with President Macron, Zelensky denied media reports that he was discussing the terms of a ceasefire with Russia. While Macron said that Zelensky had outlined Ukraine's plan for the next weeks and the pair had discussed strategy for the next weeks and months.
On the east, I understood something. As I said, the training mission for our soldiers, the brigades, we are thankful to France for this. On it depends a lot of things, especially the situation in the east, because we did not have enough rotation brigades equipped, totally equipped, 100%. So now we work with France and some other allies, and I hope in the nearest future we can count on our strong guys. So of course, big deficit with the equipment.
Big deficit with the equipment?
There are continuous commitments in terms of equipments that are following through. What was done in the last months, both in terms of defense equipment as well as training.
L'avancée de la formation et de l'équipement.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held talks with Italy's Giorgia Meloni in Rome on Thursday. After talks with Zelensky, Italian Prime Minister announced Rome would host the next recovery conference, quote-unquote, to help Ukraine's reconstruction. Giorgia Meloni said that Rome's support was about putting Ukraine in the best possible condition to build a negotiating table for peace, a peace that cannot be a surrender.
To a future of peace and prosperity. Looking to a European future also means looking to reconstruction. So I am happy to take this opportunity to announce the date of the next Ukraine Recovery Conference, which will be in Rome on 10th and 11th of July 2025. It is an event that we hold dear and on which we have been working for a long time.
Now, Russian missile strike killed at least 4 in Ukraine's Odessa region on Friday. The missile struck a 2-story building and also injured 10 people. In another strike, Russia claims to target multiple military sites in Ukraine. Russian Defense Ministry said that it struck Ukraine's air defense system launchers and 2 launchers of a US-made Patriot air defense system in Ukraine. All right, updates on West Asia conflict now. Fresh airstrike hit central Beirut on Thursday as the conflict further escalated in the region. The strikes, which occurred at midnight on Thursday, hit 2 Beirut locations in the heart of the capital. Israel has repeatedly pounded Beirut's southern suburbs, the bastion of Hezbollah movement, over the last 2 weeks, but Thursday's raid was only the 3rd time the city center has been targeted. Earlier, the UN peacekeepers said Israeli fire on the headquarters in South Lebanon Thursday injured 2 blue helmets. According to the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL, the Israeli strike hit an observation tower at a UN base in Naqoura. UNIFIL is a UN peacekeeping mission that monitors hostilities and helps to ensure humanitarian access to civilians in southern Lebanon. The attack came on the same day as the UN's peacekeeping force in Lebanon accused Israeli soldiers of repeatedly firing on its positions. Meanwhile, condemning the recent attack, United Nations peacekeepers said they are determined to remain at their post in southern Lebanon despite Israeli strikes.
We know that a few days ago the IDF asked us to move from certain positions along the blue line. This is a known fact, and we have over 29 positions along the blue line, like the Irish in Maruna Ras. And we decided to stay. There was an agreement with all the troop contributing countries that it's important for the UN to be there, to fly the UN flag, and we continue to monitor the situation. We are there because the Security Council has asked us to be there. So we are staying until the situation becomes impossible for us to operate.
Now, EU Chief Charles Michel condemned the attacks on UN peace operations. Talking to reporters on the sidelines of Southeast Asian Summit in Laos, the European Council President said that Israeli fire on UN peacekeeper base not acceptable.
An attack against a UN peace mission is not responsible, it's not acceptable, and that's why indeed we call on Israel and we call on all sides to fully respect the international humanitarian law.
An Italian Defense Minister, Guido Crosetto, has denounced the attack, terming it as a war crime. Crosetto said that the strike was not a mistake and not an accident.
The situation in the part of Lebanon has been worrying us not since today, but what happened yesterday, and today is totally unacceptable. And there is no justification to say that the Israeli armed forces had warned UNIFIL that some of the bases had to be left. I told the ambassador to refer to the Israeli government that the United Nations and Italy cannot take orders from Israel. The United Nations and Italy are there in the act of a resolution of the United Nations, and the only way to discuss what we are doing is formally putting the issue to the United Nations, not giving orders to the free nations that are there to defend international law, to do one thing or to do another.
And the Indian Army's Level 3 hospital at the United Nations Force Headquarters celebrated Mental Health Month 2024 at the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo from 10th September to 10th October. The theme, Break Stigma, Support at Work, aimed at promoting the mental health of UN peacekeepers. A variety of activities were conducted throughout the month to foster mental health awareness and overall well-being. The month-long event concluded on 10th October 2024, coinciding with World Mental Health Day. Brigadier General Ranjan Mahajan, commander of the Central Sector, along with other dignitaries from the force headquarters, attended the closing ceremony. India's National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology and the Government of Western State of Maharashtra signed a Memorandum of Understanding focusing on automation and robotics on Friday. On the occasion, Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav called the agreement significant between the government and the Maharashtra administration. Vaishnav also said that government needs to consider what skills India's youth require and what kind of technical education is necessary.
इंडस्ट्री भारत में डेवलप होने लगी तब से महाराष्ट्र उसमें एक बहुत बड़ी भूमिका निभाया है। अब उस इंडस्ट्रियल बेस में एक परिवर्तन आ रहा है। उस परिवर्तन के हिसाब से हमारे नौजवानों को क्या स्किल्स चाहिए, किस तरह की टेक्निकल एजुकेशन चाहिए, और इधर प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी इसकी सहायक बनी। यानी आप समझिए न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का जो फ्रेमवर्क है, जिसमें प्रैक्टिकल एजुकेशन, जिसमें दिनों दिन जीवन में काम में आने वाली एजुकेशन मिलने की एक व्यवस्था बनी है, और टेक्निकल आज की ज़रूरतों के हिसाब से नौजवानों को जो टेक्निकल एजुकेशन देनी है, इन दोनों का एक अच्छा समागम हुआ।
A large number of people gathered at the Shashwamedh Ghat in India's Uttar Pradesh to pay tributes to veteran industrialist Ratan Tata during Ganga Aarti at the Ghat on Thursday evening. Devotees lit diyas and offered prayers as they commemorated Tata's extraordinary life, legacy and his contributions to Indian industry and philanthropy. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of reverence and gratitude as people remember him not only for his visionary leadership but also for his commitment to social causes. Now let's take a look at other stories making news. Defence Minister of India Rajnath Singh is on a 2-day visit to Sikkim to attend the Army Commanders Conference in the state capital Gangtok. During the visit, the Defence Minister will inaugurate road projects and the Prerna Sthal, a memorial dedicated to 22 soldiers who lost their lives during the Glacial Lake outburst flood in the first week of October 2023. The Indian Air Force aircraft IAF C-295 made its inaugural landing at Navi Mumbai International Airport in the Indian state of Maharashtra. The aircraft landed at the airport for a trial run on the runway. Chief Minister of the state Eknath Shinde and other dignitaries were present on the occasion. National Regulatory Authority of India meets WHO international standards for vaccine regulations. India's vaccine regulatory system was benchmarked in the year 2017 against global benchmarking tool version 5, now revised to GBT6 with stricter rules in benchmarking criteria. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Tesla CEO Elon Musk unveils robocab that drives by itself. In sports, West Indies registers its second win in ongoing ICC Women's T20 World Cup. And Venezuela holds Argentina to a 1-1 draw in Lionel Messi's return to international duty. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Tesla CEO Elon Musk launched the much-hyped robotaxi that is capable of self-driving. Announced to be available before 2027, the electric car has no steering wheel or pedals. The taxi has 2 gull-wing doors and will be priced less than $30,000. The car uses hardware based on artificial intelligence and cameras. On Thursday, the French government presented its 2025 budget, which includes plans for 60 billion euros in spending cuts and tax increases for the wealthy and large corporations to address a growing fiscal deficit. Prime Minister Michel Barnier's administration is facing mounting pressure from financial markets and France's European Union partners to take decisive action, as tax revenues have significantly underperformed this year while spending has surpassed projections.
L'économie française résiste.
The French economy is resisting. I've said it and I stand by it. But our public debt is colossal. Not seeing it, not saying it, not recognizing it would be both cynical and fatal. In 2024, this debt should be at 3.3 trillion euros, equivalent to 113% of the GDP.
Milliards d'euros, soit près de 113% du produit intérieur brut.
And France's new government presented its Make or Break 2025 budget bill that includes tax hikes and spending cuts on Thursday. And joining us for more on what's at stake is DW correspondent Chiponda Shimbelu in Berlin. Chiponda, tell us, first of all, what are the highlights?
Well, the French government is planning to cut government spending by 60.6 billion euros. And it also expects businesses and the wealthy to step up. They will have to pay higher taxes. France's Finance Minister Antoine Armand said that the EU's second biggest economy is in an unprecedented situation. Now, with its budget, the government aims to reduce the country's deficit to 5% of GDP by next year, from the 6.1% it is expected to reach in 2024. Now, that is, of course, a level not seen since 1945, with the exception of the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Last year, France had the EU's third highest debt-to-GDP ratio after Greece and Italy. France hasn't managed to keep its debt at the level mandated by the European Union at 3% of GDP.
All right, Shiponda, also tell us, will this help France balance its budget?
Well, it is a gamble, and French politics will play a role. France has a minority government. That is, of course, because no one party or coalition was able to get an absolute majority in the snap elections held in July. Now, that led to uncertainty over the country's political future, and France only got its government last month. And this week, the new Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, who is the head of government, survived a vote of no confidence. The left-wing coalition tried to topple Emmanuel Macron's minority government, so of course a lot will be riding on this budget. If the government fails to get the support of the other two coalitions in France's National Assembly, the French Prime Minister could face another no-confidence vote, and of course a dissolution of the National Assembly could lead to even more uncertainty for investors. They would become more unsure about the prospects that France will indeed be able to lower its deficit from record levels. In May, Standard & Poor's became the second of the three big rating agencies to lower its view on France's sovereign debt after Fitch earlier this year. Investors have soured on French bonds, so France is paying more to borrow than Spain, Portugal, and Greece.
All right, thank you for inputs from Berlin. Now, time for some sports updates. All right, we'll start with cricket. Spinner Jack Leeds 4 wickets, led England to secure victory over Pakistan by an innings and 47 runs in the first test in Multan on Friday, taking a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. England's attack made short work of last 4 Pakistan batters on day 5, dismissing the host for just 200. Leach led the England attack with 4 for 30, ending Pakistan's only key partnership on the 5th day when he dislodged Salman Agha for a fighting 63. Harry Brooks smashed 317 and Joe Root a record-setting 262 in England's mammoth 823 for 7 declared, giving the visitors a 267-run lead. Pakistan have lost 11 tests on the home grounds. Their last win against South Africa came in February 2021. The second test starts at the same venue from Tuesday, while the third is in Rawalpindi from October 24th. Off-spinner Karishma Ramharak starred with an impressive 4-wicket haul as West Indies cantered to an 8-wicket victory against Bangladesh in the Women's T20 World Cup on Thursday. Ramharak's fine bowling spell of 4 for 17 from her 4 overs restricted Bangladesh to 103 for 8. With the bat, West Indies overhauled the target with as many as 43 balls to spare. Captain Hayley Matthews and Stephanie Taylor shared 52-run stand for the opening wicket before Deandra Doughton made a quick-fire 19 of just 7 balls with the help of 2 sixes. She remained unbeaten. West Indies scored 104 for 2 in 12.5 overs to notch its second win in 3 matches and keep itself afloat for a semi-final spot. Meanwhile, for Bangladesh, captain Nigar Sultana top scored for Bangladesh with a 44 of 39, but she did not get enough support from her batting colleagues. This was Bangladesh's second loss in 3 games. And the Indian Blind Football Federation announced on Thursday that it will host the 2025 IPSA Women's Blind Football World Championship in Kerala. This landmark event from 2nd to 12th October 2025 marks the first time India will host a Blind Football World Championship, placing the country at the heart of a global blind football and spotlighting its burgeoning football community. The championship is a significant milestone for the Indian Blind Football Federation, which has been working diligently to promote and advance the para sport in India. The event is expected to draw teams from across the globe, offering a unique opportunity for India to demonstrate its capability and commitment to supporting and growing inclusive sports. And India's legendary actor Amitabh Bachchan turns 82. In a career spanning more than 5 decades, the angry young man has given many hits to the Indian cinema. His charm has enthralled the audiences on television as well as with his leading reality TV show Kaun Banega Crorepati. On his birthday, we get you the special report that talks about Amitabh Bachchan's journey and achievements.
India's legendary actor Amitabh Bachchan, who's widely famous as one of the greatest and most influential actors in the history of Indian cinema, is celebrating his 82nd birthday on the 11th of October. Amitabh Bachchan is regarded as one of India's most remarkable personalities who's enthralled and entertained the audiences across generations. Throughout his career, he has appeared in over 240 plus Indian films spanning almost 5 decades. He has won numerous awards and accolades across his career. Bachchan's career is significant for its longevity, the variety of his performances, and his contributions to Indian popular culture. Amitabh Bachchan made his career debut in 1969 as a VO artist, which won a national award. His first acting debut was with the film Saath Hindustani. He rose to fame from the film Injure in the year 1973, which was turned down by many actors. With this film, he earned his first Filmfare nomination for Best Actor. After this film, he was established in a new persona, the angry young man. Apart from movies, Amitabh Bachchan is famous for his famous show Kaun Banega Crorepati, which is leading the reality TV show since past 16 years. In his career, Amitabh Bachchan has bagged many national and international awards. The notable ones are Padma Shri that he bagged in the year 1984, Padma Bhushan that he bagged in 2001, Legion of Honor that he bagged in 2007, Padma Vibhushan that Amitabh Bachchan got in the year 2015, and the Dada Saheb Phalke Award in 2018. Apart from that, Amitabh Bachchan has won 5 other national awards too. Amitabh Bachchan is famous for his poetry as well, which is a hobby that he picked up from his father, late Hindi poet Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Fans have seen his poems on different occasions that has inspired many. As Amitabh Bachchan celebrates his 82nd birthday, fans continue to wish him a longer life ahead to witness his charismatic appearances on the screen for a longer period. Deepika Mehta's report for DD India.
And before we wrap up, as Durga Puja festivities reach its peak in different parts of the country, devotees all over the country throng to temples to seek blessings of Goddess Durga at temples and puja pandals. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.